Well, for more on the state of the U.S. economy, let's bring in Daniil Manaenkov. He's the head of U.S. forecasting at the Research Seminar in Quantitative Economics at the University of Michigan. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So as we saw, the August jobs report fell far short of expectations. What do you think is behind the drop?
It's a mix. The major driver is the resurgence of the virus domestically. That I would say that's probably 80% responsible. And maybe 10–20% is there may be a broader slowdown that was brewing for a few months. So it's mostly the Delta, but there might be some worrying dynamics underneath it as well.
So it sounds like this is an expected adjustment amid the pandemic, but could this be a sign that there are issues in the labor market that could affect the broader economy if they linger?
That's definitely true. I mean, we were expecting a slowdown in job growth next month. It came a little bit sooner. There are a few challenging things ahead. The $300 boost is expiring wholesale for most states. About 25 states have cut it previously during June and July, and we might be seeing the effect of that as well already. And it's, I mean, if the wave of infection continues and spreads north, there may be a need for further action from Washington, maybe reinstating some of the pandemic-driven boost to unemployment compensation, or at least expanded eligibility so that more people can tide over until the wave is done.
So you've touched on like a possible adjustment from the government. What about the Federal Reserve? How do you see this data perhaps shaping their approach?
So just earlier this week, Chairman Powell said that there may be signs that we're getting close to where they would taper. I think this sort of puts a damper in things a little bit. So I think this may push the start of the tapering of the asset purchases probably into early 2022, provided the economy keeps growing through fall. So so basically it's a little bit under what the Fed was probably expecting. So it will shift things, but I think they'll still proceed with the taper maybe a month or two later than they were thinking about.
So for the industries that did have some success last month, which ones are faring the best?
Sorry, say it again.
For some of the industries that did manage to fare well in August, which ones are the best performing?
So we saw good growth from the industrial sector. We saw so basically the biggest hit was from the very sensitive industries like restaurants and healthcare. Everything else pretty much continued growing, maybe with a little bit decelerating pace. So other than healthcare and restaurants, everything else continued expanding at a fairly decent pace. So
I want to shift gears, obviously, to look at the job seekers, being that there are jobs available, but people aren't taking them. Talk about the advantages and the challenges of this sort of job hunting during a pandemic. So this gets mentioned a lot, that there are a lot more job openings than there are unemployed. Personally, I think it's a structural shift in how companies look for employees these days. So they post multiple job offerings across different sites, and it's very, very hard to compare the number of job openings out there with how many unemployed there are. But it's challenging because a lot of people right now are in a stage where they thought that pandemic might be ending, at least a month ago, and now they're faced with the resurging virus, and they're maybe reconsidering what they're going to do over the next several months. So in that manner, there's probably decline in supply in the job markets. At the same time, the employers have been facing shortages of workers in several industries, and that's probably not going to go away quickly as well. So it's very unbalanced job market. It's really hard to talk about the job market as a whole, but I think it's going to be very, very segmented across different parts of the country, because it's a big country. The virus is going to be at different stages in different states over the next several months, and it's going to be very, very segmented. Now, we've even seen to meet some of these shortages, McDonald's in Oregon and now Burger King in Ohio opening up their hiring pool to 14 and 15-year-olds. Just very quickly, what should businesses looking to grow and retain their workforce really be doing right now? The easiest answer is raising wages to the point that they're still able to stay competitive. I think there is a structural shift. A lot of the workforce that used to work these waiting and customer care jobs, who wanted to work during the pandemic, probably moved on to some other industries and may not be too keen to go back to waiting tables. So these industries will have to adjust, and it probably means that some of them will have to keep raising wages. Although I'm still agnostic about what's going to happen in September. I'm in a wait and see mode, but maybe the expiration of the $300 boost to unemployment compensation will do something. We'll have to wait and see. We haven't seen any obvious effects of that on the few states, on the 2,000 states that have cut that $300 payment already. So maybe it will come later.
Well, we do appreciate your insights. Daniil Manaenkov, there, head of U.S. forecasting at the Research Seminar in Quantitative Economics at the University of Michigan.
Thanks for having me.